Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is Olaolu Ogunyemi, a U.S. Marine officer, award-winning author, and leadership mentor on a mission to empower the next generation. He's the founder of Parents Child Connect, a platform helping parents, educators, and mentors build stronger relationship with young people through practical, purpose-driven leadership tools. His acclaimed children book, Crawl from the Shadows, has helped thousands of families start healthy conversations about emotion, choices, and self-worth. Olaolu has also shared his voice through outlets like Forbes and Military Families magazines, speaking on fatherhood, empathy, discipline, and legacy-driven leadership. From the boardroom to the living room, he blends military precision, parenting wisdom, and powerful storytelling to help people lead with purpose. Please welcome Olaolu Ogunyemi. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here, and I appreciate you reaching out to me. So I'm ready to dive into the conversation.
All right. So yeah, I want to start from the beginning, right? So leadership, your leadership started early. So you've led Marines and you're raising kids. So what leadership lesson, has overlapped in both worlds for you?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest leadership lesson, first of all, is get to know who you are, get to know yourself. And so that way you can lead from the place of knowing exactly who you are, all the things that you've grown through, and the ways that like all the quirks and things that you've had. You just have to know who you are and then be yourself. I think that's really the biggest thing that overlaps between the two. Both in the Marine Corps and at home, I've run into the issue of trying to be somebody else. And the Marine Corps is who I saw in the movies, and trying to be that kind of Marine where I was just sort of eating nails for breakfast and being all tough and all that kind of stuff. I thought that's what a Marine's supposed to be. And then as a father, you read all the books and you watch the movies and the shows, and you're like, okay, that's the best kind of father right there. So you try to be that guy. And in reality, it really is about being yourself. All the things that made you who you are up to this point, that's what you have to try to apply. So I will say that's the biggest overlapping lesson. Get to know who you are and then be yourself.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I needed to explain to us actually what leading at home really looks like.
Yeah, so leading at home for me is truly going out and trying to find ways to make your children the best that you can. And that's really what I think leading at home is trying to make them the best contributors to the community, trying to figure out ways to really maximize their potential. So it's like under that umbrella, there's so many things that you can do. You can teach them how to read all the way up through teaching them how to do a skill like changing oil in a car or maybe even doing plumbing around the house, things of that nature. So really everything that you're doing is preparing them for the real world and teaching them how they can go back and be contributing to the society around them. And that's what I believe leading, excuse me, at home is all about. It's about trying to find ways to grow and develop your family so that way they don't go up without a father in the home, not a present father, because you can be at home and not truly be present. And that's what we try to do. We try to make sure that we're at home, paying attention, and really providing what our children need so that way we can help them grow and develop.
Okay, wow. I think what you're doing is actually really, really amazing because the world today, they just believe that, being a father, as long as you are in the home, you're already a father, right? They don't know you have to actually be present. So that's something that needs to be talked about a whole lot. So I want us to talk about, the voices that, shapes us, right? You said the wrong voice can derail a young life, right? So what are the right voices young people need to hear today?
Yeah, so I would say the right voices are, the mentors and people out there that are doing their best to be present. And here's the thing that I think is important to mention, because even the right voices can lead you astray if they're not being used in the right way. And I think one of the things that and I learned is that our parents, our fathers, I'll talk about fathers, did their best. And my dad, my father's father, they did their best to do what they knew how to do. But if I try to just apply exactly what he did today, it's not going to work for my children. And that's what you're talking about. Being present is not just about being around or just repeating what your father did. It's about knowing what your children need that's best for them. And really, that's what I think happens. If you start listening to people who know, who are actually investing in their children's lives and they're spending time growing themselves and growing and developing others, I think those are the voices that you want to listen to. And really, the voices who don't just come, they always support you. Because sometimes I think if there's a voice that's always supporting you and always cheering you on, probably not, maybe not be the right person. They're great to have in your corner, they're great encouragers, but you need somebody who's going to be real with you, who's going to tell you that you're right or you're wrong at times. They're going to hold you accountable at times. Those are really the people I believe that you need in your life. And those are the voices you need. People who are going to truly see you for who you are and help you to continue to grow yourself. And I think those are the voices that we need to hear, and not just the voices that are going to support us and really enable our behavior, whether it's right or wrong.
Okay, all right. That was top, actually. That was, right on point, actually. So yeah, talking about, bright voices, right? How can, mentors and parents become, trusted voices?
Now that's a great question, and I truly believe it starts with getting to know the child. And what I mean by that is getting to their space. I think one of the things that we struggle with as parents is that our children nowadays have so much technology. Like I watch technology. I'm not that old, but I watch technology transition so fast. Like we all watch that technology come and go, and it's just so many things that happen in just our short lifetime. Now, just imagine the children who are just being born in the last 10, 15 years. They have so much more at their fingertips than we had when we were their age. And so it's
Mm,
realizing that they always have influences, they always have information coming their way, they always have somebody who's trying to lead them in a different direction. And so if you don't get into that world and get to understand what their influences are and what information they're hearing, then you're going to find yourself being missed. You're going to go right over their head every time you talk to them because you're not even going to understand them and understand their world and the context of their world. And I think that's where it starts. If you want to build trust with them, you have to connect with them. And that connection can't happen like a lot of us. We really want that connection to happen whenever we want it on our time, but that connection really happens on their time. That connection happens in the times where you're not upset or you're trying to lecture them about something. It's not when they don't do well in school or they don't have the A plus like you think you should have, like my dad made us have when we grew up. It's all about really trying to invest time in them around the clock. Find those simple times, whether it's playing games, sometimes it may be watching shows. I always advocate for reading books, those kind of things. Try to spend those time with them. And that's how you build the trust when the times really get rough and they start getting older and you start having more heartfelt conversations, especially about the world around them as they see it. The world is an evil place, as there's also good people out there. But if you truly don't invest time getting to know them and investing in their life, you're going to have a hard time trying to get on their level. And if that trust isn't there, it's going to be tough to build any kind of direction or give them direction because you just don't have that connection and you haven't built that trust ahead of time.
okay, all right. So, talking about trust, right? This leads us to like emotional strength. I feel
Mm.
like we cannot fully express our emotions if we do not trust who we are talking to. Right. So this brings us to like the next question, right? Many young people they struggle with expressing their emotions. So why is emotional intelligence a leadership skill?
Mm. Well, number one, it's because even in the Marine Corps, I use the Marine Corps for example, because
Yeah.
a lot of times when people see military, they think just regimented. They're supposed to be, very stoic. They don't show emotions, all those kind of things, and that is true. There's a time when you don't. You're very in control of your emotions and you regulate them
Mm,
intentionally in order to make sure that you're projecting the right thing to the people you're leading. But one thing I realize is that emotional intelligence, number one, that is how you find a way to regulate your emotions. Number two, emotional intelligence is all about knowing how to name what you're feeling. And one of the things that we didn't grow up and we didn't pay attention to many times, and I just started recently thinking about this and reading about it, is that there's many more emotions out there that we don't even know about. Like we just really talk about happy, sad, or mad. Those are like our three things that we go to. Sometimes we say frustrated, which isn't technically an emotion, but we don't know how to express ourselves. And if you don't know how to express or name the emotion, then how are you going to know how to grow through it? And if you don't know how to grow through your emotions or deal with your emotions or regulate your emotions, then how can you expect to lead somebody else and help them to become more resilient and more emotionally stable? It's just tough to do that. And so that's why it's important as a leadership trait for us to understand how to, grow our emotional intelligence. And really the way I tell people to do it is just go Google it. Go Google emotional intelligence. I have something that I hung up on my wall for my family called the Mood Meter. I believe Yale is the one that put it together, but they put together this chart that has emotions on it. And when I ask my children how they're doing, I tell them to go to the mood meter and tell me exactly how they're doing. So that way they can name their emotion and they get in the habit of saying more than just like good or bad. And they can actually express those emotions and identify them correctly. Because if they identify them correctly, then you can help them grow and develop. And that's why it's a leadership tool. Because again, if you don't know how to regulate your own and don't know how to name your own emotions, and you have a very small vocabulary in relation to emotional intelligence, then there's no way you're going to help somebody else grow their emotional intelligence.
Okay, all right. Wow, this is on point. Right?
Hopefully I'm winning points back since I didn't know how to say my name. Hopefully I'll get some points back.
Well, it's fine actually. This particular word, why I like it is because it's coming from like a real life situation, right? In your life, right? So it is more realistic. And I was trying to compare your situation with the typical traditional African household. It is totally different, right? There's no room, there's no safe space for people to, air their emotions. And it's even worse when it comes to men or male children. They believe you're not supposed to express some certain kind of emotion. You're a man, don't cry. You're a man, don't talk too much. Yeah, so I feel like these things needs to be tackled. So from your life, right? How do you think family should, create safe space, especially for like real conversations?
Yeah, so let me start by saying that I grew up exactly the way that you're describing. So it was
Yeah.
four boys in the house, and we didn't talk about emotions. And in fact, if you cried, you may get beat up. That's just the way it was. And some of that is because of the environment we were in. That's the way we thought that we should express ourselves as men. Men don't need to express that emotion because, and this is why, because you're showing vulnerability. And the way that we always view vulnerability, especially when it comes back, you start looking back generations, it's survival skill, right? So if you show vulnerability, that's somewhere that you can be attacked. And so that's why over time, without context, men are like, okay, I'm not showing any vulnerability because somebody may attack me, somebody may beat me up. And then because we believe that, we start to continue to perpetuate that kind of behavior. And so that's the kind of environment I grew up in. We thought that was the right answer. We thought that we should hide our emotions. Now, the after effect of that is that we started to suppress emotions and found ourselves dealing with things that we could have dealt with a long time ago. As adults, we're starting to deal with them because we have children and things of that nature. But those are things that didn't have to be developed because there's a way to create that safe space. And that is just talking, helping, having open communication. And you can teach them what's appropriate, when it's appropriate to cry and when it's not. And I do that with my son all the time. My son is 12. And there's times when I'm like, hey man, you can't let that little thing break you. That's not how you can't let life break you down every time. And you definitely cannot go into the world and show that kind of emotion to somebody because if somebody out there who doesn't care about you, which is a lot of people outside his home may not care about you. If somebody out there sees you expressing that kind of emotion, they may take advantage of you, and that's not what you want. And so that's what we tell them. Hey, you come into this environment, and we'll talk to you. We'll let your hair down. Like you can really show your emotions in this place, and then we'll clean you back up. And that way, you can go out in the real world and face the real arrows and the real people that are coming against you. And I think that's what we're trying to create here. And I truly believe that's what helps men stand up strong with their shoulders back and they can really have their chest out to say, man, I'm proud to go out and face the world because they have somewhere they can go and be safe and have somewhere they can go and be held and be hugged and loved and nurtured and all these things. And it doesn't take away from their manhood at all. I'm a guy who really believed in manhood. I fought my entire life. I joined the United States Marine Corps. I did sports. I did all the things, checking the box. I lift weights every day, all those checking the box, masculine things that I thought were important. But the most important thing is having that safe space that you're talking about. And the way you do it is quite literally just explaining that, hey, this is the place that you can express yourself. It's not easy. I can tell you from a man's perspective who grew up in that environment, there was times I listened to my wife tell my son one time, it's okay to cry. And I was in another room and I remember I remember cringing, and so that means that I still have things I need to deal with. Right. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I knew why she's saying that. And I really want to help him out through that. And that's the biggest thing is teaching when it's appropriate to show certain emotions. And then you still have to teach and hold accountable when the time is holding accountable. So that the part of the safe space is not just letting people come in and just cry and just do whatever they want and have no emotional control whatsoever. But the safe space is a place where they can try different emotions out, and then you coach them and mentor them and guide them so that way they know how to deal with it when they get into the real world.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, I feel like I've learned a whole lot already, actually. And my podcast here is for young adults. So, and it's about young adults trying to gain clarity from real life experiences. So I want us to talk about, resilience and failure, because most people do not know how to, when they come across something that really brings them down, they don't know how to get back up. Right. So you talk openly about failure and insecurity. So how did those moments, shape your leadership, and what mindset actually helped you bounce back stronger?
Yeah, so I would say failure at the time, it really does suck. That just start there. We all know when you're failing, especially when it's a public failure, it really does sting. And if we just stop pretending it doesn't sting, then I think that's where we'll be good. I failed publicly. For example, when I was joining the Marine Corps, I failed multiple times in early training. I almost didn't make it in the Marine Corps. I almost got sent home. And that, as embarrassing as that was for me, I still have to figure out a way to make it through it, and then still writing a letter home. You can imagine me writing a letter to my dad, or, with tears dropping onto the paper saying, "Hey, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I think they're about to send me home," because I was so embarrassed. That's really what it was. Like I went with all this confidence. I did everything that I could to prepare. And here I am standing about to fail this entry level training, which isn't even the hardest thing that we're going to do. And so that's really the things that I was thinking about it. And so failure in the moment does suck. And I think the first thing we need to do is just acknowledge it. Those feelings aren't fake. They aren't something that we need to wish away and pretend they don't exist. Just accept it. Hey, this really does suck at the time. But after that initial emotion, I think it's time to really take ownership of the situation. In one case, it really still in my early training, I was climbing a rope and I got stuck. I couldn't slap. I was supposed to go all the way up the rope, and I got about 3/4 up the 20-foot rope, and I couldn't move anymore. And this is something that I'd done multiple times, but for some reason that day my shoulders locked up, and now hundreds of people, it's at least 200 people, could see me up on this rope, almost 20 feet in the air, and I can't move. So I'm just sitting there shaking. And I finally came down and I just felt that failure in a moment. But then I realized, okay, you got to take ownership of this. Like, there's nobody else that's going to come and feel sorry for you, first of all. Nobody's going to come fix that problem for you. You have to take ownership. And I think that's the mindset you have to have. Once you get over the initial shock of it, it's time to say, okay, shock is done. I've done my crying, and I need to leave every last bit of that. That was important for me to get that out. Now it's time for me to take ownership and move forward. And I think that's really the first thing that I would say for a perspective, just saying, okay, what can I control in this situation? And if I control the outcome, is especially if it's something that is tied to a business, or maybe it's tied to a physical failure, whatever it is. I can control the outcome in many ways. So I'm going to control what I can control and then let everything else go. And so that's really what I think it is. It's just, when you're facing failure, just take ownership of it and really try your best now to not go into the same situation. You find yourself failing again, hey, it's part of life. That's just what we have to learn to understand, that this is all a part of life. This is all a part of growth. But knowing that failure is also our opportunity to grow. And that's what last thing I'll say about that is when I failed that obstacle course, I started thinking about it. When life gives us obstacles, in the obstacle course, you just continue to bound over the obstacles. You keep going. You don't just stop. In life, though, for some reason, we hit obstacles and we just stop and we start crying and we throw our hands up. That's not the way it's supposed to be. Obstacles are there for you to overcome, so that way you can get stronger and stronger. So I look at them as opportunities. So every time you face an obstacle, just think of it as like it's another opportunity for me to grow. It's another opportunity for me to overcome this thing and be stronger than I was the day before. And that's the mindset shift I think that everybody should have, young and old, so that way we can continue to grow through failures.
Okay, all right. Yeah, thank you so much for that one. That was quite inspiring, actually. And yeah, I want you to give, like, 2 to 3 daily habits that, build strong leadership, and how can, young adults practice leadership before they even have the titles.
Mm. That's beautiful. So something I always talk about is lead last. And what I mean that by that is things that you must do first before you can be an effective leader. And so the first thing I will say is get to know yourself. And the way you do that is prioritize self-care first thing in the morning. Every single morning, I wake up and I dedicate at least 10 minutes to four key areas. That's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And those are the four key areas that you have to put 10 minutes into. And if you can do more, then great, but don't do less than 10 minutes. The way you can do it, if you don't have 40 consecutive minutes that are uninterrupted, combine things. Go on a walk and listen to a podcast, or go on a run and meditate and clear your mind. Do things that you can make sure that you're taking care of yourself and filling yourself up first, because that's really the most important thing. So you continue to have a habit of filling yourself up. The second thing I would say is write. I don't think a lot of us write, but I think way more of us need to take down some notes and journal every single day. Journal what we're thinking, journal what our emotions are, what we're experiencing in life, all those things. It's not just to get your feelings out, but it's also so you can capture what's going on around you, because there's so many artists and creators out there that are just sort of wasting their talent. These are the things that we need to make sure that we're doing. Make sure you're continuing to develop that talent that you have in you, and continue to journal, continue to write, continue to sing, whatever that thing that is in you. Do that so that way you can continue to grow as an individual. And if you do those two things, I truly believe that you'll be prepared to lead when the time comes, because that's where it starts. It truly starts with building up yourself and understanding who you are on a personal level before you can try to go out and build somebody else up or get to know somebody else. And that's where I always start with, who are you? That's the first thing that we want to know. We have to have that introspective look. Continue to do things like take on the Myers-Briggs test. If you've never heard of it, there's personality tests and things of that nature, leadership assessments. Take those things so you can figure out who you are. So that way, when you come up to the opportunity to lead somebody, man, you're ready. You're ready to take off from day one, because you know who you are and you're confident in who you are. And you have a habit of building up yourself first thing in the morning. So by the time somebody comes to you with a job offer and you get the title, now you're ready to run. You get to know those people and you're ready to develop them. But you're not coming from an empty place, a place of being depleted and tired and exhausted because all life has beat you down, and you're coming from a place where you don't even know what insecurities you have, and so on and so forth. You're coming from a place of fullness and you're ready to take on that job. So I will say those are the things you need to do to really prepare yourself to lead in this world.
Okay, all right. Thank you for the second one, because after you said it, I think I'll start writing. Who knows? I might be a good writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might just be a good writer. Okay.
You may be. You may be. A lot of people don't know it, but that's exactly how I started writing. I've written now, and you already talked about it, Forbes and Military Families, and I mean, I've written over 200 articles and books. And the way I started that is literally I just started writing every morning. And the more you write, the more talented you get at it, the more skilled you get at it, the more you practice it. And then you're more inclined to want to read more so you can learn more and use research. And now you're growing your mind. And the more you stimulate your mind, the better it is. You just, again, when you're having conversations, you just feel more confident. You feel better. Feel more confident. You carry that confidence with yourself. And when I say tell people they radiate with knowledge and intellect and beauty, it's because they carry that confidence behind them. No matter what anybody else told them, they have that confidence that helps them feel good about themselves. But that all comes from doing things like writing and sort of building yourself up and becoming the person that you truly want to be.
Okay, thank you so much for that one, actually. And this brings us to like the final segment of my podcast. It's called the rapid fire segment, right? So starting
Mhm.
now, leadership is.
All right. Leadership is serving others.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. A strong family needs.
To connect every single day.
Hmm. Okay. And what's one lesson the Marines taught you?
Be strong and never show your weakness.
Ah, okay. All right. After that one, what's one lesson fatherhood taught you?
You can't control everything. So let go of what you can't control.
Okay. All right. And what's the best way to build trust?
Spend time doing something that you don't like, but that the other person does.
Mhm. Spend time doing something you don't like the other person does. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So what's a book every young person should read?
Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Okay, I've read that one actually.
It's a good. I love that book.
I do love that book actually. And yeah, legacy means
It means finding ways to leave a lasting impact beyond your tenure with the organization or family.
and finally, if young people remember one thing.
They should remember to smile. The world would be a better place if we all just smiled.
Oh, that's true, actually. Yeah. So this has been amazing. This was powerful. Thank you for reminding us that leadership isn't about spotlights, it's about service, legacy, and lifting order. And yeah, before we wrap up, where can listeners get to know more about you and what you do?
Yeah, the best way to reach me is parent-child-connect.com. You'll see my blog, you'll see my books there, my YouVersion content partnership. Everything is there on the website, parent-child-connect.com.
All right. So yeah, thank you so much, Olaolu. Can you pronounce your name?
Olaolu. Hopefully I said it right. If
Olaolu.
not, yes, that's right. I'll go back and practice because I'll make sure I
Okay.
have it right by next time.
All right. So yeah, if you don't mind, because I still have a whole lot of questions, right? But I have limited time. So if you don't mind doing like a part two, that would be
Mhm.
amazing, actually.
Let's do it. I'm all about it.
All right. So yeah, to my audience, thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this, and also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episode. Thank you, Oladu. Have a wonderful day.